stand here today and tell you how much I love you and how much we all love you, God. I pray that you would be with me as I bring your word down. In Jesus' name, amen. Be seated. Thank you, girls. You did a beautiful job. So you can kind of see here that when we have a full kids service, we kind of do a little bit of everything. We sing and we dance and we're silly, but we also worship, because even though they're kids, they can still worship. That's not anything that they're incapable of doing, so we still have a time of worship. So this morning I'm going to talk about, go ahead, Joseph, to the next slide. Keep calm and trust God. Yeah, I like this picture. Keep calm and trust God. So, what does that mean? We say that all the time. I tell my students at school that all the time, like, Miss Clark, when are we going to do this? Just trust me, we'll get to it, I promise. But what does that really mean? Well, when you look it up in the dictionary, trust means reliance on the integrity, strength, ability, surety of a person or thing, or to confide in them. Now, isn't that the definition of God? We can trust His strength, we can trust His ability, we can trust His surety. We know He is who He says He is, and He's always going to be that. So we're going to keep calm and trust God. And as our scripture verse said, thank you. And I went ahead and added the next part here. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. Trust in the Lord, okay. Lean not on your own understanding. A little bit harder. In all your ways acknowledge Him. Oh, that's everything. I've got to acknowledge Him in everything. That's where we really start getting into trouble, because it's easy to acknowledge Him right now. We're in church. It's easy to acknowledge Him in church. We're in a church building. We just sing about loving God. That's easy. But He doesn't say every time you're in church acknowledge Him. He said in all your ways acknowledge Him. So who do you trust? This is the question. See, God has a plan for your life, Joseph. The enemy has a plan for your life. Be ready for both. Just be wise enough to know which one to battle, which one to embrace. This is why we have to trust Him in all our ways. Just have lots of pictures. We got to trust Him in everything. We've got to acknowledge Him in everything, because God has a plan for my life. But the enemy has a plan for my life too. He wants me to be as far away from God as I can possibly get. That's his plan. Anything I do that's going to take me far away from God is the enemy's plan. And anything I do that brings me closer to God is God's plan. So here's the key. Are we wise enough to know which one to battle and which one to embrace? Can we tell the difference? See, God's got a question for you. He says, I have a plan, but do you trust me? Do you trust me? That's a huge thing to ask. Now, it's one thing if my parents say, do you trust me? Okay, they've raised me. I'm an adult now. I've been with them a long time. I can trust them. They've never done anything that would tell me I shouldn't trust them. If George looked at me and said, you need to trust me on this, you know, we've been working together long enough now. We built that relationship. Okay, I can trust George. Oh, he's looking at me. He's giving me a look. Like maybe I can't. But I built that trust, but I can see George. I can see my parents. Can I see God? That's what makes it hard. I can't see Him. But He's saying, I have the plan, and it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're our littlest baby or our oldest adult. I'm not going to put anybody else in trouble. It doesn't matter where you fit in the scheme of things. God's looking at you saying, I have a plan. But do you trust me? So how are you going to answer this question? Do you trust Him in everything? That's the hard part. We got to trust Him in everything. See, if we trust in God, we find, Joseph, that we can only see a little bit down the road. But God can see around every curve, all the way to their end. It would be like me driving on a super curvy road, and I can only see where the curve starts. And George being in the helicopter above me, being able to see the whole path to direct me. Big difference. He can see what's around the next curve and the next one because he's above. I can only see where the curve starts. Now, if I was driving and George radioed me and he said, okay, you need to be careful around this next curve, there's a whole bunch of deer. And if you fly around that curve, you're going to hit the deer. I trust George enough to be like, okay, let's slow down. Let's take the curve nice and easy. He told me there's deer. But if God's speaking in your life and he says, slow down, something's about to happen, you need to be ready for it. Do we stop long enough to even listen? Or we're like, yeah, we got whatever, and we just keep going. Or are we so busy that we don't even notice? We see so little comparison, and sometimes we can get overwhelmed. Oh, I take it back. We can easily get overwhelmed. Let me rephrase that. We can easily get overwhelmed. We can easily get overcome by what's happening in the world. We can get so involved in all the noises the world is throwing at us that when God says, calm down, I need you to be ready for this attack. It's about to happen. We miss it. Because we've got all this other stuff and we're not acknowledging God in everything. Here's the other thing I hear all the time. Well, okay, I'll trust God after I take care of all this stuff. I'll trust God after I figure out my life. I'll trust God once I figure out how to stop doing this or that or the other thing. Well, here's the key. The Bible never says, figure it out. Jesus did not come down and say, figure it out and then trust me. He didn't say that. But over and over and over again, it says, trust God. He's already got it figured out. Now, this is what I stop and think and go, well, if God's already got it figured out, why am I wasting my time trying to figure it out? God already knows what's going to happen. I mean, God knew way before I even did exactly what would happen in this service. He knew exactly who would be here. He would know exactly which pictures I would find and things really cool to put into my sermon. He knew all of it. He had it figured out. He knew that last night and all day yesterday, I would be sitting there with a sore throat and a headache and being like, God, I don't feel good, I don't feel good, I don't feel good. He knew that last night Emily was going to have this horrible migraine that would tempt her to not come and help. He already knew that. But we had to trust God. We had to recognize that that was the enemy's attack. See, this morning we were talking in the car, Emily and I were, about our issues we were having over the last few hours. And I said, Emily, you're going to be fine. I was praying about it this morning. I said, okay, Satan, in Jesus' name, you're not allowed to come in. You're not allowed. Like, when we get to church, it's over. And she was, I was praying the same thing last night when I had that migraine. So like I was praying, Satan, leave me alone, because we knew. We knew that he didn't like that. Remember, the enemy's got a plan, God's got a plan. The enemy tried really, really hard to get me and Emily not here today. He really tried. He tried really hard to get you not here today. It's like, hey. But we got to trust God. He already has it figured out, so we have to let him take control. That's the hard part, because we're humans, and we don't like to let him take control. We're humans. Do I like to let other people drive my car? Emily's back there. I don't. I like control. I like controlling, knowing that my car will be safe because it doesn't have somebody who's not a seasoned driver behind it. That's how I am. That's how we are. But we've got to trust God. So I know some of you are sitting there thinking, okay, I get it. I'm supposed to trust God, but I'm such a mess. There's all these tests. There's all these trials. You don't understand what has happened to me. You don't understand what my past is like. You don't get it. Well, I don't. That's okay. God does. See, Joseph, only God can turn a mess into a message, a test into a testimony, a trial into a triumph, and a victim into victory. He can do it. I I will be a mess as long as I try to do it. That's that whole lean not on your own understanding part. Don't lean on what I understand. As long as I lean on myself, I'm going to be a mess. And every test and every trial is just going to make me worse. And I'm not saying that we don't have, there are definitely people you're looking at your past going, well, I was a mess. Okay, I believe you. Some of you are going, but I was a victim. Okay, I believe you. I have no reason to doubt you. I don't know you. But see, when we give it to God, He can turn it into a message, a testimony, and a triumph, and a victory. You can whine all about what has gone wrong. You can sit there and have a pity party. But this happened to me, this happened to me, this happened to me. Or you can say, God, this stuff happened to me, but I trust you. I'm not going to lean on my own understanding anymore. I'm going to lean on you. Because you already know what's going to happen in the end. You know everything. Now, I really like this one. This really illustrates what I was talking about here. I'm going to read it to you. In the top part, it says, Lord, guide my path. I don't know where to go. So Jesus says, sure. Then just trust me and row the boat without looking back. Okay, we all start out that way. Sure, okay, here we go. Here. Yes, sir, I got this. But you see, he's getting tired. Now he's getting frustrated. Lord, am I going the right way? Are you sure this is the right direction? I'm tired. I'm the only one working. Just what are you doing? He's mad now. And then you look back and see that Jesus is in the back with way bigger paddles, way more of the work. And he's saying, would you like to take a break? Do you want to trade places? Well, the guys went, no, that's not what I meant. But we do that. God says, here's the path. You just set out on that path and just trust me. Okay, got it. Here we go. God, what's going on? God, I don't have a job. God, this person's big one. God, what are you doing? And we look back and realize that he was actually there doing way more of the work than we ever were. And he's going, you want to trade places? I died on the cross for you. You want to trade places? Oh, that's okay. You can have that one. I'm good. He does more than what we expect him to do for us. That's the key. He does more than what we expect. We expect him to do stuff, but we give up on him halfway through. Like, you can do amazing things. And then we get going and we, all of a sudden, like, I don't know, forget that he can do amazing things. And we're going, what are you doing? You're doing nothing. And he's going, I'm doing all the work. I'm the one who died on the cross. I'm the one that prepared a way for you to get to heaven. I'm the one that's directing your path. I'm the one that knows which way you need to go. All he asks us to do is trust him. That's the hard part. More often than not, we say we're going to trust God, or that we are trusting God. We say that, oh, Margaret, I'm trusting God in this. Don't worry about that. I'm trusting God in this. But in reality, we're still worrying about the situation. I trust God. I do. And then I go home, I'm like, God, how's this going to work out? God, what if George's Clippers break? God, what if Emily has a headache? God, what if nobody shows up? God, and he's going, you said you trusted me. Doing both is not possible. You can worry or you can trust God, but you can't do both. Because if you start worrying, you're leaning on your own understanding. And he said, don't do that. He said, don't lean on your own understanding. Just trust me. You have to trust in the Lord with a whole heart. That's hard. That's hard to do. It's easy to say. It's easy to be like, no problem. I trust God. It's great. I can do it. It's really hard not to worry afterwards, though. When we get out of church. When we're not singing the worship songs anymore. Then it becomes really hard. Then it's like, I'm not in service, pastor's not preaching, Emily's not playing that amazing song that really helps me remember that God is all in control. You know, it's hard to do. It's so much easier to worry. I don't know why it makes me like not sleep at night. But don't. She's looking at me. I know. See, some of you are looking like, yeah, I know. Isn't it so much easier to worry though? Because it's like, how is this going to work out? God's going, just trust me. See, what happens is we come to church and we say, God, I trust you to take care of the situation. We go home, we start worrying about it. And the more we worry, the more tied up our heart gets. And so now we have this heart that's tied up. And we can't see how it's going to work out. We can't see what's going to happen. And we're just, because we let our worry take control. But we can't let that happen. Now, Joey, can you come help me? Can you come help me? Just like me? Okay, come here, stick your hand out. No, stand right here.